Hey guys, so we are wrapping up the most recent wave of Marvel Legends, the X-Men Caliban wave, and we are just going to jump right into it since we don't have packaging to talk about. We just got the big guy himself to wrap up. We have got Caliban on deck. This is a pretty interesting choice for a Build-A-Figure. I was kind of surprised to see this one. I mean, his size obviously fits, but this is a specific instance for Caliban. He has been a lot of things over the years. I'm assuming that maybe there's some tie-in to the fact that his character was in the X-Men Apocalypse movie. Maybe that's why he's kind of fresh right now. But this is still kind of a cool figure. Maybe not the one a lot of folks really wanted, but I'm kind of happy with him. So let's jump right into it, see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. It's a Build-A-Figure, so obviously he has some inherent limitations, but he might surprise you. So the head can go all the way back, and it goes all the way down. Rotate side to side. Arms go out. They rotate. You do have bicep swivels. We've got single jointed elbows as usual, but they go 90. We've got rotating and hinged wrists. Ab crunch goes all the way forward, pretty far back. Waist twist. You've got legs that go out about that far, so almost full splits, really. Kick forward, kick back a little. Thigh cut. Double jointed knees. You've got a boot cut down here, and we've got hinge, and we've got rocker at the ankle. So he moves around pretty well, even for being a pretty big guy. There's a lot of articulation to get him into at least some somewhat dynamic poses, even though for this particular character, that's not really a necessity. As far as aesthetics go, you know, this is, again, kind of an interesting Build-A-Figure because Caliban didn't always look this way. This is, you know, if memory serves, and someone will correct me, I'm sure if I'm wrong, this is when he was Death, correct? Because he's been Pestilence, and he was really, really tiny, and he's been Death, and Apocalypse beefs him up and makes him into a superhuman monster. And I'm pretty sure that's what he looks like here, and this look isn't even remotely a modern look either. This is just the look that they could go with, although he does have a couple other outfits that I remember. I mean, there's an old Toy Biz figure, not Legends Toy Biz, the old 90s Toy Biz stuff, where he looks just like this. So it's not a modern look by any means, but it's one of his kind of more maybe iconic looks for the size that he's in, and I think he looks pretty good. We've got a lot of that kind of metallic paint going on for his suit, and I think it looks pretty good. You've got that kind of the marbly metallic plastic down here for his legs. You've got some two-toed feet, so, you know, pass him off as like some sort of mutated weird Ninja Turtle kind of guy. But I do like that plastic, so that's kind of a plus for me. For the skin tones, it's kind of weird. It's all this kind of chalky, milky color almost. He's got these gnarly hands that are, they almost look like they're kind of reversed images of each other, but they're a little different. They're not 100% the same. And they've got this kind of like gray and blue overspray on them, but they're kind of cool. I like them. And he's definitely got some size. I mean, he's a Build-A-Figure, so he's got some size to him. So for a quick comparison, here he is with Kingpin. And you can see that, you know, Kingpin's a pretty beefy figure. Caliban rivals Kingpin as far as overall size. This is not a small Build-A-Figure by any means. I mean, he's not going to, you know, tower over Apocalypse or any of the other larger scale figures, but he's certainly not in any way diminutive. He definitely lives up to what Apocalypse did to him back in the day. So I'm happy with the size. I think the paintwork on the chest for this emblem is pretty nicely done. I do have a little hit on the back though, which is unfortunate. I've got a little red up there, but otherwise everything's really clean and crisp. The lines aren't too fuzzy except for on the legs, and that's because they're doing a different thing down here as far as what paint and plastic is being used. So I'm assuming that's why we've got a difference in kind of texture from top to bottom, but there isn't much paint on the legs. It's just the kind of burgundy red stuff. And then he looks good. There's really not much more for me to complain about outside of that one little red nick on the back, and it's kind of an odd hit, but I'm sure I might be able to get that off. The main draw, well, maybe outside of his size and just the fact that he's not your average Build-A-Figure, is his head sculpt. I think this is the key defining characteristic of this figure, and I think they absolutely nailed it. It's got more of that kind of chalky, milky kind of texture and color and feel to it. So you've got this like various shades of kind of grays, almost a blue-gray color, and then those whites in there. And then, of course, you've got the mouth open, tons of teeth painted and showing the kind of darkness around the eyes, and then those yellow pupilless eyes, which I say a lot. I love that kind of stuff. And then you've got those big, almost horns for the eyebrows. It's just a cool head sculpt. I think he looks really menacing. He looks really evil. I think he very much lives up to the idea behind this character in this instance in Marvel history, in this character's history. So, you know, he's again maybe not the expected Build-A-Figure, but I think they nailed it where the sculpt needed to be put in, and the head is definitely that place for sure. It's a great looking head sculpt and really nice paint job. Now, there are no accessories to talk about, so we're going to jump right to the point where I talk about the wave in general. And frankly, this is a very strong wave. I can't think of a wave recently that has been this good or even better by any means. This is a great, solid wave of X-Men figures, all X-Men related figures, which is just a huge plus for me. You know, that's my thing. I love X-Men more than anything else. So there's not a single figure here that I don't like. I think Hasbro did a great job, even with some of these being maybe more secondary and tertiary characters. For me personally, they're all a great character selection. Even Skullbuster, the one I didn't want the most, turned out to be a great figure. I'm familiar with the character, I just don't really care about him. But the figure is really cool. Same goes for Caliban. I'm very familiar with him. Don't ever really thought I needed a character like this, but he's a cool figure. So there's a lot of good stuff here. There are a few things that maybe I didn't like on some figures, but these are all great ones. And if you're an X-Men fan, you have to get this wave. So this is not going to be a worst to best rather. This is going to be a list of basically which ones do I like more than the others, because I like them all. So we're going to start with Caliban. He is a great Build-A-Figure. I like the figure. He's got a cool head sculpt, but compared to the rest of the wave, it's no competition, really. Next would be Skullbuster, because while he is a great figure, and I have a lot of fun posing this guy around, he is just not as cool as some of these other guys. Next would be Jubilee. So we've got a good figure. We've got great new parts being used. I love the color scheme. I like the character, but the lack of effects pieces really, really hurt on this one. Next would be Forge. He's kind of plain compared to the rest of the figures, and it's kind of hard to compete against Gambit and Beast, honestly, but a solid all-around figure and an X-Men that I wanted for a very long time. Next up would be Weapon X. It's a Wolverine figure. You can't really go wrong with a Wolverine figure, and this is a good one. The only downside to this one for me personally is, of course, there's something weird going on with my thighs, and he has that wonky extra head sculpt. Third is going to be Blink. She just absolutely won me over. There's a lot of cool stuff with this figure. I think the sculpt is great, the paint is great, the effects are great, and I like the character. So there's a lot of things for me to like there. Second is the big blue man here, Beast. It's a figure that we all wanted. It's a figure that basically everybody needed. Unless you are really, really stuck on that Toy Biz Legends, this is one to get. It's a great figure, a lot of good sculpt, a lot of new articulation, which I absolutely love, great posability. But at the end of the day, the number one figure was always going to be Gambit, unless they somehow screwed him up, and I am very well aware of the fact that they did not screw him up. I love everything about this figure, even the way they implemented this very old trench coat motif. I think the figure's great, an awesome character. He comes with all the stuff you could ever want for Gambit, and it's just a great figure. It's a good toy, fun to play with, fun to pose, and that's really what it comes down to with this wave. None are bad figures. They are all really solid. A couple of them maybe have a few little things that bother me here and there, but this is a great wave of Legends figures. It's not one anyone should miss. So that's going to do it, guys. That is it for the X-Men Caliban wave of figures, and specifically Caliban himself. I think we've got a solid Build-A-Figure here. He's definitely not one of the top-tier villains. You're not going to see people rushing out to get this one, I don't think, like Kingpin or Apocalypse or Juggernaut or stuff like that. But this is a fun figure. He moves really well. The paint is nice on him. The sculpt is nice on him. He's got that crazy, gnarly sculpt and paint on the hands, and that head sculpt is absolutely wild. I really, really dig it. And not to mention the fact that he is complemented by a great selection of standard figures in this wave, so it's not one to miss by any means. Even if you don't care about Caliban, you'd have a lot of fun playing around with this toy. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Caliban wave of figures. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.